Good evening, and welcome to the October 20th. That's okay. That's okay, because I always say the wrong month. So it's October 20th, 2015. I said to myself, wow, we're going into the twilight zone. We have so much time to do our budgets now. All right, September 20th, 2015. I'm reading the paper. Sorry, excuse me. Start over. Good evening, and welcome to the town work session for the town of Ossining for October 20th, 2015. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So on our work session agenda tonight, we're going to first see one of our departments come up and give a presentation, and it's going to be Kathy, and she's going to talk about the Senior Nutrition Department. And this is a really important department as she moves up here. This is a really important department that we want to make sure everyone in the town of Ossining, which is 91% of the village of Briarcliff Manor, the entire village of Ossining and the unincorporated area, you know that these services are available to you. If you have any questions at all, you can call
762-1350.
Okay. And they work from 7:30 to 3:30?
8 to 3.
8 to 3.
No lunch.
Okay, so
Lunch on the run.
lunch on the run. Okay. So Kathy's going to go over her department. She's going to introduce some of you to it. Some of you either have parents or siblings or yourself in the program. So we just want you to know that it's available, and we encourage people to take advantage of it. So with that, I'm going to have the lights turned down a little bit and let Kathy make her presentation. So here you go.
Thank you. We do
Other way.
we have meals at the center.
Can you hear it?
Is that on?
Yeah, is your mic on?
It is on.
Yeah.
Gotta bring it closer.
Okay. Sorry. How's that? Oh, that's better. Now I can hear myself. Okay. We do meals at the center every day, Monday through Friday. Who am I? The site director, Kathy Acero. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Sue introduced me.
Is that
Um,
in the way, Matt?
I'm just showing the presentation.
Okay.
You don't need to see me, do you? We also have home delivered meals for eligible seniors. We have a social worker that goes out to see the seniors for eligibility through the county eligibility requirements. We have a Call-A-Cab program for eligible seniors 70 and up, $3 a coupon for throughout the town of Ossining and Briarcliff. Grocery shopping we do on Thursdays to ShopRite and Croton. The eligibility is you must come in for lunch. We have transportation, so anybody who wants to come in for lunch is entitled to a ride. Just call the day before, and we'll pick you up. We have the Are You OK program. That's for the seniors, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock call for free. We call 7 days a week, even on the weekends, to check on seniors. And if we don't find them, we have to contact somebody, or if we can't find a contact, we call the police. And they'll go check them out, see if they're okay. Exercise, we have an exercise class on Wednesday that's low impact aerobics. That actually is through the recreation department now. We used to have that class through a grant, and we no longer have that grant, but we have an exercise program on Friday which uses exercise bands, which the seniors really love. And that's through the Westchester Community College. We got a grant through them to do for 12 weeks. We do 12 weeks at a time, and then it's like a month break, and then she comes back for another 12. We have an art class on Thursday upstairs in the art room from 12:45 to 3:15, which is a really good class. We have parties occasionally for special occasions, and my kitchen staff sings happy birthday to seniors' birthdays. We have a list in the kitchen. You know, that's fun. They play bingo practically every day of the week except for Thursday, which is shopping day, and there's nobody around to bring them home, so we have to cut out bingo on Thursday. We have a social worker who is there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. She answers the phone. She helps seniors do anything. Fill out applications for Medicaid, HEAP, housing. She answers questions, helps them do their bills, helps them with any kind of problem they have, anything, any kind of help. So if anybody knows of anybody, you know, who needs help, or a meal, a home-delivered meal, or just somewhere to be every day, come on down.
Once upon a time, you had a dance.
We have a dance class on Thursday. Yep, we have dance. We do blood pressure too. Screening. Prescription Center comes down and does blood pressure the last Tuesday of the month. He donates his time. He gave some of our seniors flu shots. The last couple of Tuesdays he was down. I think he did maybe 40 seniors. Gave them a flu shot.
Can you introduce who's in your office with you?
Sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we
There's-
go. Look at
that's
that.
Angela.
I just have timely questions.
That's Angela. Angela Muse. Thelma is a volunteer senior who helps out in the kitchen. Denise Hourdick, she's kitchen staff also. They're putting together cold meals, it looks like, right there, to go out for home delivered meals. We do a hot lunch and a cold lunch. There's Angela again. Connie, who's our part-time kitchen help. They're dishing out for the seniors for lunch. They dish out beforehand to do home-delivered meals. We go out about 11 o'clock. Our chauffeurs deliver meals.
And they did such an awesome job with, they always do with the snowstorms, but with Hurricane Sandy, I remember they wanted to make sure that the seniors had enough meals to get them through a couple of days. And
we did extra for them.
really kind of.
Yeah. And we also get shelf meals, like that they can keep through the county. We order shelf meals, and they can keep it just in case, we can't get to them. They have that. Sure.
How do you how do people sign up?
Just call the day before.
That's it.
Or
So
you can call in the morning, too. Sometimes we have cancellations. You can call.
do people have to call daily for if they want a
No.
lunch?
We have a master list of people who come every day, and the people who have, certain days that they come to. We have a master list for every day of the week, which Lynn takes care of. She'll be coming up soon.
Okay.
They sign in every day, too.
Yeah, they sign in every day. We have to have a sign-in sheet. That's for the county for our reporting, so that we can get reimbursed.
I actually was telling him because I know that's what.
Right.
I've seen it. I've been there a few
We
times.
sign in, they check in. We have to do a SAMS report on the computer. We have to do, SAMS reporting. It's a reporting system for the county. So they keep their statistics, and, the more people we serve, the more funding we get the following year.
And there's people that are eligible out there. We want to make sure that they
Yeah.
get forward.
Yeah.
How do you get the word out to seniors who may be eligible but don't know about the program?
We have local agencies that we send the calendar to, like all the housing and the hospital knows, the doctors, churches, library. They all have our calendar. It's on the website. It's on the Town of Ossining website.
It does work, and my mom was
Yeah.
in the hospital, and then they sent her home with them coming
Mm-hmm.
to her.
Really?
Yeah. Now she's
Yeah.
home carries, but yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
There's Jeff. He's setting up to go out. He's putting the cold meals in the box to go out to deliver meals. He's one of my chauffeurs. He's part-time. Jeff Sutton.
We love Jeff.
Yeah, we do too. We wish we could have him full-time, but... There's Jenny. Little Jenny, another one of my chauffeurs. She's bilingual. She's Spanish and English. And so is Jeff, actually. He speaks Spanish also. For a lot of our seniors that come in that we can't communicate with.
He didn't have much choice. His wife is there.
Yeah, I know. Even Angela communicates with them. She just
Oh, Lord.
knows. She
Never mind.
she's good though. They love Angela. They know when she's not there. Where is she?
Yes, everybody.
They love her.
We know when she comes up to the office.
Yeah, they love her. There's Lonnie. Lonnie's our bus driver. That's our bus back there. He's going out too to deliver meals. He's also a community service aide. He takes seniors to doctor's appointments out of town. They can't use their taxi coupons. Only in Ossining and Briarcliff. He goes to Mount Kisco, Croton, Peekskill, White Plains.
How does that work? Do you have to sign up for that in advance? You say I have an
Yeah,
appointment Wednesday?
we have to have advance notice. Oh, yeah. This way I make sure all my staff's there. I have to look on my calendar, make sure that no one's on vacation. And
But he takes a batch of people at once then, right? Like if a couple people are going to Peekskill or...
sometimes, yeah. Not all the time. Like he had 2 yesterday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and did his route in between. And picked up people, dropped people off. Yeah, it's incredible. They're on the run. There's Eddie, Eddie Banta, back to us. That's our new van. New, and our uniform, yep. He's got his uniform on, and yeah, he's carrying his stuff over there. The seniors love that van, by the way, both of them, both of those vans.
Those are the new ones?
That's Jenny, yeah. That's Frank, who works at the front desk. We get him through Sir down in White Plains. He gets paid through them. He does the front desk, the check-ins. He has people sign in, and he's handicapped. So he's a senior. There's our new van. There they are. That's Jose and Luisa.
Thank you, Rubrums, for
Yeah.
the bows.
Yep. Nice job. They love them. Yeah, they're packing up to go out.
Yeah, they're nice.
Lonnie, that's Lonnie, the bus driver. We also have a lift on the bus if anyone needs a lift. They can't, wheelchair lift, or even some of the people who can't go up the stairs, or there's no room in the van. He'll bring the lift down and bring them up with their walker. Strap them in. Yeah, hold on to them. They go up too. Yeah.
It really is.
And we
good
take
to
them to
get out.
ShopRite. Yeah, we take them to ShopRite every Thursday afternoon. Take them up. We've got a lot of people going up there now. Last week we had 16. Our bus only holds 12. So we had to take.
2 trips?
Yeah. So yeah, but then they have to go back and get them. That's our dance class. That's Cameron Kelly. She's been with us for years, since I started in '86. She was there. Yep. Dancing. That's Carl's Wednesday class, the low impact aerobic class in the gym. He's good. He's in his 60s. The dance teacher. The exercise teacher. There's Lynn. She does the reporting to Sam's for me. She does home delivered meals. She keeps track of all of that and the transportation. And she also goes out and delivers meals too when somebody's on vacation or out sick or one of our drivers are out. She does it. She does everything. She takes over when I'm not there.
And this is for all of the town of Ossining,
Yeah.
including Briarcliff?
Briarcliff, yep. Briarcliff, Scarborough. Here's Debbie, our social worker, helping one of the ladies. She does the intakes, too, for the homebound seniors. She has to go out and visit, too, to make sure they're eligible. And if they're not, she tries to talk them into coming in instead. But here, I think she's helping somebody with Medicaid. She's part-time. There's Jerry calling bingo. We play bingo. They love it. They love bingo. Well, that's only part of the room. The whole. Well, come on down and play. Yeah, they love it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, bingo, and Tuesday in the gym at the Golden Age meeting.
How many cards are you allowed?
As many as they want. Really? Whatever they put in, they win back. Bocce is on Wednesdays and Fridays. Yeah, that's a program through the rec. Yeah. But yeah, they play bocce too. And, they can't start bocce till bingo's over.
Does everybody have a seat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the other half of the room is full too with bingo players.
But do these people always sit with their assigned seats?
No. Those are the people who can't hear too well, so they like to sit close by. So, I asked him if he wanted a microphone. He said no. So that's our knitting class. We also have a knitting class. And there we all are. Me, Lynn. There's Jeff. Poor Jeff. We don't have an ID card for Jeff. He needs an ID card. And Lonnie. Looks different without his hat, right?
Yeah.
So does Eddie. Angela, Jenny, Denise, and Lynn. Me, and Eddie. Yep. So if you know of anybody who needs a meal or a home delivered meal, call us up. And I'm very proud of my staff. They do a really good job.
About how many residents do you service in a year?
In a year?
Those statistics?
Yeah, in my file. Yeah, to the county.
A rough amount?
We do 40 to 50 a day, just in the dining room alone, and about that homebound also. So between 80 and 100 a day, times how many days in a year?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, and they come and go.
I'm proud to say my mom is one of your customers. She loves my mom loves the art program.
Who's your mom?
Joanne Blaha.
Okay.
So she loves to paint. She loves to go up.
I don't know her because she doesn't come for lunch.
No.
No, she's a young senior.
Okay.
You know how the Tuesday the Golden Eagles call themselves
Golden
the young
Agers,
seniors, right?
Seniors, we have a senior that comes in that's 96 and another senior who just turned 101.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Still comes in.
Still comes in.
Carmela Trapasso. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Almost every day.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great program. Thanks for serving our community. It's really
You're
wonderful.
welcome. We love it.
Fabulous.
Thank you
very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
So we're going to adjust our schedule a little bit here. We can take it down and turn the other lights on. We're not 100% prepared to talk about the accessory apartments, so we're going to put that off for another 2 weeks. But that's it. 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
We can talk about it in general, but if you want.
No, I think we're at a point now where we need to. More than that. And we're going to move up on it. We have with us David Stillman and Dan Ciarcia to talk to us probably for the last full work session of discussion.
Oh, really?
I know. It just seems like yesterday that we started this whole thing. There was a tweaking done to a law, and Anne Marie, could you just grab some right there at the end of the? Yes, please. I believe those are them, right? Yes, there was a tweak done to local law number 9. And if you have any other questions or something, now is a good time to ask David and Dan on all of our laws. There you go.
Which one is this? This is zoning. What? Oh, they'll tell us what the tweaking is, right?
Yeah.
They're going to talk us
He's
about
going to talk
this one.
first, and then you can ask your question. Yeah, okay. Yes, those are the extras in case the crowd comes in. So why don't we do this tonight? Why don't we talk about what you tweaked on this law? Sure. And then we want to talk about, we want to ask the board if they have any questions from their doing their homework and researching and what have you on all the laws, right?
And then there's also something we need to talk about in local law number 10, the ARB local
Right.
law. About the
And one of the things that I just want to talk about is in notification, and we just kind of need an explanation. My question would be, can we put this out at the can we notify people at the beginning of the process? I know it,
On that point,
yes.
I just happened
Let's
to
talk about that first, and then we'll talk about that.
It is an interesting point because I had observed something driving around in, I forget what town
You need to
it was.
talk much bit closer to your mic. I don't know why.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. I had observed, and I have observed this before, and I actually have not researched and it just came to my mind because this weekend I just drove by in another town. I noticed on a fence outside a site there is a sign that says this property is the subject of an application before, and it has dates on it. And it actually, the sign itself has the ability to change dates on it. So as the application progresses, you could continually put, the new date of the new meeting on. Are you familiar with that, David?
Sure.
Yes. I don't know if that's
not that particular kind of sign, but
well, that's what I observed. But I was particularly, I found it to be very helpful because then you could identify the site, the location, with the fact that there's an application. It doesn't say what the application is, what the nature of the application is. It just says there is an application before the planning board, the zoning board, or whatever it is, for the site plan or subdivision for this property.
And as much as we've discussed it briefly in the past, having talking about these signs and everything, and since we're at 500 feet and you don't want to miss somebody at 501 feet, this might be a good solution that we can not have excessive mailings going out because, it will be, can we have a mailing at the beginning? Can we have a mailing at the public hearing? Can we have a mailing in the middle? So we can do the mailings at the public hearings, but if we put signs up on projects, developments, I shouldn't call them projects. I grew up in the 70s in the city. Then that might work out, to our advantage. But I like the one where you can change the dates. Somebody just has to go out there from the building department.
Or put it upon the applicant to do it.
so you can use the same sign over and over again.
Right. So it's almost like you slide in the information.
It is like a slide-in date. That's exactly what it was. Now, what I didn't do is I didn't make a mental note of the location. I should have, because then I would have looked up the local law and see if the provisions are in the local law. I assume they are.
Probably, yeah. I would think so. I would think so. So, are we talking about the possibility? A public hearing is a very specific thing in the New York State enabling legislation, which flows down to our local provisions. And for example, there's something called a default subdivision, preliminary subdivision, final subdivision plat approval if the planning board doesn't act within a certain prescribed amount of time. And one of those things is doesn't act within a certain period of time after the close of a public hearing. So a public hearing is a very specific kind of thing in the enabling legislation flowing down to our local provisions. Are we possibly talking, and I wouldn't open a public hearing the first meeting and then leave it open for months, if not years, but are we talking about just some sort of notification that...
Just so they're aware that this is going before a planning board, yeah.
That's,
Because what we're talking about is, I think, whatever I guess you're saying there's a legal provision as it's written that flows down to the local law.
Mhm.
And I think what the conversation is by people who are surrounding whatever the project may be, is that they don't know about it
Mhm.
until the process has gone, has been in, until the process has been in process. That's redundant, but I'm sorry. For quite some time, and maybe people feel like they were behind the behind the wheel. So I guess that's the
Well,
reasoning behind
yeah.
the thought process. And
so there could be a notification at the front end.
But I
or-
think
And you
with
know
the
what? If you
supervisors
do, if you do, if you
and
do
or-
stuff, well, if you do stuff like we notify people via email, we notify people, they can sign on to we put every single planning board meeting out on its own email as a zoning board meeting. And if we did that, plus posted it on our webpage, plus posted the sign up, then I don't think we need to send out numerous letters. I think we need to, but I wasn't sure about the sign, but I think the sign would work good because then somebody who would be of interest would live around there.
Well, I was going to say, the people you're trying to target, right, are those that would be
affected by
impacted. So those are the people who are going to be in that area, so that I think it does sound like maybe a sign would work, because if you're driving around your neighborhood, down your block, or the next block, that's somebody who lives around there, as long as you prominently display it, right?
But the one
so
thing
that's
you
not
would have
hidden
to
behind
do
the
is-
brush underneath the tree that nobody can see.
One thing you would have to do is quickly put that into the law because we want to move on these laws too.
I'm sure it's very easy to add it at this point.
We can, yes.
And let
But then one other thing, everybody do not have email and computers.
Right.
And that would make a great difference to put out, have that sign.
Okay.
So, we seem to think that everybody has emails and we don't.
I'm with you. I just even if it's on, even if you have email or if you don't have email, I'm not necessarily signed up to be notified about every planning board meeting. I'm not looking, so it wouldn't.
But I think
with
that
or
if you
without.
add that, add that on with the notifying people as we do, if you're on any email list whatsoever, and your people that are very active in that environment are all on the email list, email. If you have posted on the web page, if you have information available at the desk, we could just have these are the notification. It could be a one-sheet piece of paper that at the building planning department, that if you want to walk into the office, and if you put a sign up, I think you're covering yourself that this is a start of a process. It's not opening up a public hearing. You're not there for that. You're just there for to make sure that everybody's aware this process is going on. So if they have any comments, they can then email someone or something like that. It doesn't mean you have to.
Right. And as far as the sign goes, I mean, I would say this, that in all the years that, I've been doing this, and I think David's been doing this, it's very rare that we have planning board agendas that have more than maybe three or four matters, I think, beyond that at any
Really,
given.
it's like two most of the time.
But, I'm just talking about even
Yeah.
let's say a busy stretch. It's unlikely to have more than 3 or 4 matters pending at any given time. I mean, the town could actually buy the signs and supply them very easily. And, because the matters are so few, and the planning board meetings are every other week at best.
If we bought like a group of 4 signs and they had to put some payment down, the developer had to put some payment down and got to use it for that particular thing and brought it back when it's done, then you could keep recycling these signs
Well,
too.
it's just that you could designate the size and the type of sign as
Right,
opposed
so
to
that
being like a
everything is
small
uniform. Yeah,
and-
we'll look that up for you.
Usually they're good signs.
Yeah, don't worry.
Are we talking about leaving it up the entire length of the project?
Well, in some cases they won't get returned to you. Yes, you are, but in some cases they won't get to return because they'll be weathered. It's like-
The things you may want to just make sure
You
you
have to
get,
talk into the mic.
the things you probably want to make sure you get in there, first off is, in some communities they have a window when the sign can be up with respect to the public hearing. But it sounds like you want to have a different window, which would be just when the thing first hits any of the boards. The other thing I was going to say, in terms of the public hearings, and maybe you could even do it at that, a lot of them require that you provide an affidavit with photographs to document that it's there. And then they also have criteria where, depending upon how much frontage, sometimes it ain't a one-sign property, that you put criteria in there. If it's on a corner or just a very large parcel, there's multiple signs. So just to, to consider in your legislation some tweaks to dealing with the signs.
Okay, good.
Every 50 feet, perhaps, or something like that.
Well, that might
Or
be a
maybe
little
every 100
extreme.
feet. I mean, I don't know, whatever the number is, but.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just want to make it that somebody isn't going to miss it. I mean,
I would say that if
you go
you're
with
on a
if you go
corner,
with the big signs, then
you know,
One on each.
nobody
one on
misses
each,
them.
yeah.
And what about if like there's an amendment? Would a new sign be triggered?
An amendment to.
Like if your application is, first you're going to install a pool, and then 6 months later you decide I'm going to amend my application and say I'm going to install a pool house and cabanas and all sorts of other stuff.
I think
Would
that
that-
the sign is very generic, and what it does is it then alerts people that there's a matter before the planning board, for site plan approval. It doesn't say anything about the specifics. All it says is that an application is pending before it's either the zoning board or the planning board. You could do it for either one of them, both of them, for site plan approval for this property, and will be on the agenda on so-and-so date. That's all you have to do, because at that point, you've alerted people to the fact that it's there. At that point, they can't deny they know it, and if they're curious, they can call.
Right, it triggers.
It triggers the process. Yeah, no,
No, it-
plan several months later, everybody who was part of the initial plan would be like, okay. Okay, I understand. If they show up to 3 or 4 planning board meetings, then they think they know what the plan is. If there's a time when the sign would come down, I'm just saying, if there's, I'm just
Well, I-
suggesting
we
if
could
the plan changes and I don't know,
Yeah.
forget it.
So, yeah. it's,
Well, I have
you
a
know,
question about the length of time. I have a question about the length of time. Because if they keep it up for the whole length of time, you're going to run out of signs. Because even though you have maybe 4 at a time, but then if there are 6 months, right, or 2 years, right, so that doesn't logically fit. Maybe you can educate me as to how long in the process, is there a specific
We generally
period
don't
of
have
ti-
more than as Wayne said, 4 active projects at any one time.
multiple
and
years,
these
though?
are
yeah.
these are not expensive signs. I mean, they're generally
Yeah.
white.
Well, my question is there a specific amount of time before the public hearing happens? Because maybe we could just keep it till the public hearings begin.
Yeah, but the
No?
public hearing can be way down the pike a little
Yes.
bit,
No, I think
depending.
that people's complaints are not that they're not getting notice of the public hearings. People's complaints
Right.
are that they're
Right.
missing out on the entire pre-public hearing process. They don't know it, and they feel that by the time the public hearing, rightly or wrongly, I think the perception
Listen,
oftentimes.
let's do this. Let's start it with the projects that we now have, or if we have anything coming up. And if you have to buy a couple more signs, you buy a couple more signs. And,
And I think the public has some responsibility here. I think once they figure out that there is a project, they have some responsibility to keep track of it. I mean,
Right.
we can't spoon feed this
Right.
to everybody.
That is.
Keep the sign up for 6 months then, or is it?
For as long as it's pending.
So long as it's pending, until after the public
Yeah.
hearing is closed?
Well, I think once the public hearing is closed and the board has voted on a resolution, either approving or disapproving of
Okay, so
an
then that's the
application,
answer. All right.
then the sign can come down, but.
I have been places where actually, if an establishment is going to get a liquor license, they actually have to post a sign. So there
That's
is.
mandated in a number of
I,
places.
I've actually driven by them, too. So that's a good addition to this, and that solves our problem with not having because if you say, well, we'll mail you at the beginning of the thing, then they'll want a mailing 3 months down the road, and then if it stagnates at all, because they do, then they'll want another. So if we do the signage, it will stop. It will be cost effective for the town and informational for the residents,
I think it's a very good.
and for the people that don't
Thank
have
you.
internet or emails,
You said you saw it.
whose brides do though.
So we yay, way.
Good, excellent.
I knew this was an issue that would grab it.
Yeah, it's one of the last of the big, the issues so far. So let's talk about local law number 9 right now, because you did put you did send us a change in this, and you can go through the change with us. You can go through the change with us,
Sure,
David.
sure. The change is with respect to paragraph number 2 on page 2, at the bottom of page 2, and paragraph 2 on page 3 is exactly the same wording as the paragraph 2 on the bottom of page 2. So we only have to go through it once. And let me just read this and try to explain.
It's just this paragraph. These two paragraphs are exactly the same. Just watch this one. It's
Right.
easier than paragraph 2 on.
Paragraph 2 on page 2 and paragraph 2 on page 3 are exactly the same.
Yeah, the same. He made some changes to it. He wants to go over.
Right. In the last version, it said the planning board basically had latitude. There wasn't any sort of guideline regarding the latitude. It just basically said with respect to cluster developments, the planning board had latitude as to how much wetlands and steep slopes could be counted toward the minimum lot size. So this says, and this is based upon comments that were received at the last work session, with respect to a cluster develop, and do you remember what paragraph 1 says? Because
Maybe read paragraph 1.
paragraph 1 is important to paragraph 2, but there's no change in paragraph 1.
That's okay.
So paragraph 1, with respect to a conventional subdivision layout, at least 75% of the minimum lot area requirement of a proposed lot, and these would be new lots, shall neither consist of wetland nor extremely steep slope, as these terms are defined in Chapter 105, freshwater wetlands, watercourses, and water body protection, and Chapter 167, steep slope protection, respectively, of the town code. For example, in an R40 zoning district, at least 30,000 square feet, which is 75% of 40,000 square feet, of the proposed lot shall neither consist of wetland nor extremely steep slope. So 3/4 has to be high and dry, and not steep. So with respect to a cluster development layout, the planning board shall strive to achieve the 75% standard in subsection 1 immediately above, but the board shall have latitude with respect to the degree to which building sites and lots may contain wetland and or extremely steep slope in furtherance of fulfilling one or more of the purposes of cluster development set forth in section 231A of this chapter. That's where it ended last time. But now we're explaining what those purposes are, to wit, to enable and encourage flexibility of design and development of land in such a manner as to promote the most appropriate use of land, to facilitate the adequate and economical provision of streets and utilities, to preserve the natural and scenic qualities of open lands, to protect areas of meaningful ecological value, and to reserve suitable land for park and recreation purposes. So this paragraph has the guideline to try to strive to achieve the 75%, but the planning board has latitude above and beyond that to try to achieve these other purposes as well.
Does that mean they can do less than 75%?
Yes,
So they could do 40%?
they could.
Well,
Okay.
and I was going to say, is there a way to have a strive to achieve, but no less than?
Then you're going to automatically create that as the basement, so everyone will strive to achieve 50% if that's the number.
It could be 65 or 69. Or
Right.
I mean, I'm just.
You know, when you allow the planning board to cluster, you're giving them a lot of latitude in the first place. And you're assuming that they're going to be reasonable and appropriate, and they're going to try to fulfill the goals and objectives that you set forth. So I think if you hamstring them too much, you're putting them in a box, and I think, as Eric says, you're going to create a different standard if you say, but no less than X. It's automatically going to be X.
I think it gives the planning
Okay.
board enough teeth, yet a little bit of latitude.
And also, by the way,
Talk into the mic,
I'm
please.
sorry, this sort of addresses some of our concerns regarding the challengeability, perhaps, of these local laws. So that's an important thing here, too. By overly restricting the planning board, you perhaps open yourself up to a challenge as far as the laws go, and this is intended to not directly address that for that reason alone, but as a side benefit, I think it makes the laws less subject to attack by those who may be attacking it for their own personal reasons and agendas.
I agree wholeheartedly with that.
And that's what we had set the goal to be, that we would be as strict as we can with the, and to make sure that we were right. Remember?
Yeah, it would be much better to achieve nearly as much as we'd like to achieve, but truly achieve that if challenged, as opposed to getting this reversed.
And one of the things that we said, I've been saying for the last few weeks, there are going to be people that think we went too far. There's going to be people that don't think we go far enough. And we have to do what's right for this day and time, and remembering that this is a living document, and it can be adjusted as different circumstances come up. There was a comprehensive plan. In the comprehensive plan, I wanted you to go over that one paragraph too.
Sure.
I'm sure we've gone over it many times.
We did go over it last time, but I'm happy to go over it again.
Thank you.
This is with regard to do I have that here? It's with regard to the Stony Lodge property, and I thought I had it here.
Aren't we still doing
Yeah, there's one more thing
laws?
with regard to the
There is.
ARB local law.
The ARB.
I do have it here. I just have to find
he's
it.
Gonna ask, you can ask any questions you want on anything, but let him just. This is my question: is what's going on? Did you need this one?
Is that the local law or is that the comp plan?
Oh, that's the seeker.
I do have it here. I just have to.
Okay.
I saw it tonight. Here it is. So this paragraph would be added to the chapter on development and redevelopment. And we have the Stony Lodge property that is being very much underutilized at this point in time. So the paragraph, and we went over this at the last work session, the paragraph would say, the town should be open to an analysis of the zoning of the underutilized Stony Lodge Hospital property in order for this property to be adaptively reused or redeveloped in a manner that is feasible and which protects surrounding neighborhoods and environmental resources to the maximum extent practicable.
I'm just confused. I don't remember. I don't know if I don't remember any of this. So this is just to be put into the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, just the plan, not a law. It's not a law, it's a plan.
And we're speaking of, I guess maybe, I'm just surprised to be speaking about a particular piece of property in the comprehensive. I guess that happens, right?
That's not
check.
unusual.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
That's very common, actually.
I can for example, in the last comprehensive plan, or I should say the current version of the comprehensive plan, we talked very specifically about the Hagedorn property, which is the property that Tony Beldotti is proposing to develop currently. We said the town should change the small office research manufacturing zoning district on Hawks Avenue, that is the Hagedorn property, to a new zoning district which would allow residential uses, bed and breakfast, small inn, and other compatible uses. And then after the comprehensive plan, you enacted a local law to change the zoning of that particular one piece of property to the multifamily-in district.
To help us with the HUD.
Can you read the proposal on the Stony Lodge, the language again?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And then we also had talked about the Maryknoll property and other properties surrounding the Indian Brook Reservoir in the comprehensive plan. So this would say, and it doesn't pin the town down to anything in particular, but it says the town should be open to an analysis of the zoning of the underutilized and non-conforming Stony Lodge Hospital property in order for this property to be adaptively reused or redeveloped in a manner that is feasible and which protects surrounding neighborhoods and environmental resources to the maximum extent practicable.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Now we want to open it up for, do you have a
There was
question on that one, or do you have a
one
question
more-
on another one? Okay.
One more local law.
Oh, sorry. One more look.
This is the ARB, and this is this is regarding the fact that Eric doesn't want people to go to jail,
Oh, this is right. That was the other thing, the jail.
which I think is admirable. Because we've got good people here in the town of Austin.
Yes.
Shouldn't end up in the can, right?
Just for painting their building purple or something,
So
or their whole building.
we can take the jail part out very easily. We can say that, there shall be a fine and/or staying at Eric's house. I don't mean, I'm not,
Prefer jail.
I think what was brought up was having some sort of appeals process. But these regulations are not like zoning in the sense that zoning says you've got to do this. The dimension has to be 20 feet, can't be 15 feet. Then you can go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to appeal the fact that you don't have 20 feet, you only have 15 feet, and that should be allowed. This is much more subjective stuff, where I think I wouldn't want the Zoning Board of Appeals to say, well, the planning board said that a peaked roof is inappropriate in this situation, but we think a peaked roof's fine. Build your peaked roof. It's much more subjective, and I don't know that we want the ZBA to be able to overrule the planning board on these judgments. So we can tone down the violations, and I think you'd only be hit with a violation if you went ahead and started building an addition on a house without going to the ARB. And you just kept building the addition, and John Hamilton said, you've got to go to the ARB to get an approval on your addition, and they said, no, we're not going to do it.
And
Then
we have people who have done that.
that's where, you'd want a fine of some sort, and maybe we can get rid of the jail time.
But we'd have to have the fine be large enough that it ensures that it
Compliance,
makes that in compliance,
Agreed.
right? Because
Totally agreed. That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
because it's $250 or $1,000 even, they'll take it. So maybe we'd have to make certain fines. I guess I don't remember exactly what it is, but depending upon, we'd have to make that.
But when we
fine
look over our
significant.
fee schedule, we can definitely do that. So
Maybe we'll get some input into other people about what would be a really good fine.
In our zoning code, the minimum fine is 100 and the maximum is 5,000. You can make a minimum and a maximum. You have to look at it from my point of view. If you say, well, the maximum is $250, all right, so I'll spend $250 in that, and I'll get this done.
Right.
We have to make it that it's a deterrent.
Right.
And while we don't necessarily hit somebody with 5,000, it should be an opportunity if the conditions warrant.
so when
I'd like to hit them
so
with
and I apologize if you didn't hear John because he didn't go up to the mic, but that's all right. But what we'll do is when John comes before the board for his budget, we'll do his fine schedule at the same time. So that would be great. That would be a big help for everybody.
And it's always left to the judges who are going to be, at the end of the day, adjudicating the summonses at the
Right.
time to,
But you can give them guidance.
you give a minimum and a maximum fine, and then the judges decide wherein that this particular egregious act lies.
Yeah.
Maybe we could even add something that says with the object of some
You need to
fines.
talk into your mic, sir.
Uh,
God,
with-
it's a rough night tonight, huh?
Something in the law that says that the maximum would be, that these fines are designed to have a deterrent effect. So, I mean, if a judge gets there, we wouldn't want a judge saying, well, 5,000 is a lot of money, let's just do it, 500. The whole point is we want this to be interpreted as having teeth.
Right.
I mean, jail time is probably a bit excessive, but a steep fine would
Well,
probably
that
be
was
appropriate.
what we were trying to do is find an answer for your need for an appeal
Appeals
if you're going to go
process.
to jail. So we're going to take the jail time
We'll
out.
strike that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you just have a certain length of time on the rack.
Yeah. Stand in your front yard with a sign. Holding the sign. Okay.
So I can make those changes and
Yes.
get those two
Quickly.
local laws to you by the end of the week.
Good. Yep. Now we want to go and ask the board for questions that they have on all the laws, right? You know, because
Can I go back to?
absolutely.
Okay. So we talked about the fact that.
Now, which law are you on?
Yes, I'm back to this. Local law number 9. That's the one that David you just read. That was you read number
David knows
1,
them by heart, so.
and then number 2 is the one that you tweaked. And I was just wondering, you did a great job here on this second part of the to-wit, to enable and encourage flexibility of design and
That's-
development of land.
That's right out of the zoning law.
Perfect.
Verbatim.
Great. So I was just wondering, though, because of the particulars of Wayne mentioned before that some people may be attacking certain laws. We don't know what could happen. But I'm just wondering if another factor might be warranted under the circumstances that would include something like minimizing economic impacts on the community. Because there was a specific issue that was raised that our current laws did not address, and that would be something like low-income housing or something like that. Right? Remember, wasn't somebody attacking?
No, we were attacked. I'm sorry. I think what you're referring to, what you're referring to is an allegation or made that.
I think it was a threat.
That, well, we'll call it whatever it was. It was an
Uh-huh.
allegation that the laws are restricting our ability to create housing or low-income housing by
Right.
restricting development.
Right.
So it was kind of an indirect, but they're saying the word indirectly, but knowingly looking to restrict development so as to avoid low-income housing or.
So, right, perfect. That's 100% right. So what I'm wondering, though, is does this provision address that very specific point? Because I love the language here.
Well, the whole provision does not address that point directly. All it really does is it creates a latitude in the planning board phase in determining this percentage of how you determine the adequate lot size and coverages, whatever, in a cluster, and giving the planning board the latitude to use its judgment in that situation.
But
And that's what's intended, actually. Or that the impact of that is not intended, but the impact of that is to make the law more, I think, realistically survivable because of that discretion that's given to the planning board.
It gives discretion, but it doesn't necessarily address the potential secret issue. I don't know if it does. I mean, this is a question. Does this, with all the latitude, actually address the potential economic impacts that were raised on the challenge? Because it does create wide latitude, but it doesn't necessarily address the economic impacts, potential economic impacts that were brought to our attention. So it's just a possible another.
Oh, if
factor
you're
to
referring
consider.
specifically to that particular argument, then you're saying that the planning board should be more apt to create more lots in a subdivision because to allow for greater development and perhaps greater inclusion of low-income housing.
If that's called for under the circumstances of any particular development, it provides latitude in that area. I don't know. I just thought I'd bring it up because I'm not sure this addresses that particular challenge, and if that was a worthy challenge by.
Well, we're not acknowledging that it's a worthy challenge by any stretch of the imagination.
I think in a way
Agreed.
it does, though. I mean, I think in a way it does because what it says is that they strive for 75%, but that any planning board has the latitude to look at these other factors, and therefore, in and of itself, I think generally what that says is we're not restricting. Sorry about that. We're not restricting development because there is latitude to look at, and these are the factors. I think as it stands, as it's written, it does speak to the issue.
Okay. If you can interpret that the most appropriate use of land. I think that's
we
general
can,
enough.
I think we can tie the two together, Eric, and everybody else, because in the cluster, in the below market, in the affordable section of the zoning, it says here, it talks about density bonuses, and we're talking about affordable housing for density bonuses for affordable housing. It says to assist in achieving, and this has to do with the one-family residence districts. So affordable housing in the one-family residence districts and density bonuses. It says to assist in achieving the density permitted, the applicant may apply to the planning board for a cluster development pursuant to section 231 of this chapter. So it basically says you can use clustering to achieve affordable housing and the density bonus involved in affordable housing. So I think we can tie the two together, yes.
Okay. That's brilliant,
We'll
by
talk
the way.
about
That's
density.
really brilliant.
We'll talk about
You're the man.
density.
You're the man.
We're going to talk about density bonusing in the future.
That's very good.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
That's another conversation.
Issue
but-
resolved for me. Thank you.
I know.
One little question I would like to ask. Under section 3. Oh.
Oh, boy. You
Yes.
didn't get him, so.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't paying enough
Yeah.
attention.
You're not doing your job.
I know.
Under section 3,
I was looking for section.
zoning chapter amendment. Now,
Mhm.
if it says a new subsection 206F shall be added, and then on the next page, new subsection 176 18F shall be added, and it's the same, right?
Yes.
What-
And
I
the
don't
reason
understand.
Northern is that on page 2 we're adding it to the zoning law, the zoning chapter, and on page 3 we're adding it to the subdivision regulations.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it's two different
places.
chapters.
Okay, all right. That's all, that's fine.
Thought you had him there, right?
No.
I want to.
That was a softball. Thank you, Northern.
I want to. Before we continue, we're not done yet, but I want to compliment everybody sitting at this table because you see this book. This is the master book for everything that we've gone through, and it has been such a learning experience over the last 6 to 8 months. And then before that, when we sat for week after week after week, going through the comprehensive plan, deciding which laws we want to do. It has been, this is a major, major thing that we're putting together. And I'm very proud of, and it's this group sitting at this table, and I'm so proud of every single one of you that have worked so hard on this. So makes me smile.
And that's a
Just-
heavy, heavy book, too.
And that book weighs a ton. Let me tell you, I have to take the elevator up and down with that book because it's so heavy. So was there any other questions that anybody had? And again, remember, it's a living document. You're still going to, we'll still have people coming. We have one more public hearing on this. We'll still have people that say, things and from their heart, and they'll say things like, you didn't make all the changes that I want you to make. And I think we've been very clear that we're not going to make every single change and that you can move forward with it again in the future. This was a tremendous effort, as I just said before. And I wouldn't expect anyone to take it on, at the first couple of quarters and maybe next year at all, only because look at the amount of work that we went into this. So does anybody have any more questions, or are we pretty much settled?
I do.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. And they are 2 things that have been brought up to us, and I'm not going to be as specific as they were, but I know you're up to this. So one of them is about Local Law 6, I think, which is the tree protection chapter. And there was some questions that came to us about, one, I think, if I remember correctly, was about the planting allowance and how, or something having to do with
Oh,
growth.
making sure it was all not, and I apologize
Yeah,
for
no,
interrupting
good.
you. Non-invasive trees and
Non-invasive-
native trees. It was
Yes.
the big thing was the native trees.
Native
Right.
trees, and
Not
maybe
even
there was
non-invasive,
something
but
on
native
here,
trees.
one of the trees that was listed that shouldn't have been
Yeah,
listed.
something
or-
like and I don't want to name any of the trees,
So
so I
I-
don't want to hurt their feelings, but yeah,
I
we
w-
need to make sure
So I
every
think
tree.
I wanted to be open
Mhm.
to the possibility of listening to those two things within that local law, which is one, which are the trees, and one was, I think, when it was appropriate, or verbiage about the appropriateness of when planting.
The timing of the year.
I think that's what I remember hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, was it
about-
growing season in the wetland law? Remember?
No,
Oh,
it was there was another one about planting trees
I thought
in
it
a
was
certain
trees.
time. That trees don't get planted.
No, it was a wetland
Oh,
law.
wetlands?
Okay. So for the local law that I just spoke about, which is the trees, which is local law 6, that was just the invasive.
So we have a registered landscape architect on staff, so we'll check through these trees.
Right.
Okay. The wetlands, which I think is.
Oh, it was the growing season, so
is
you can tell
7.
it's the growing season.
But
Okay.
this is right out of the Army Corps of Engineers
Okay,
manual, so I wouldn't take necessarily the input from an amateur over, what's right out of the manual.
Okay. Okay. So that's 7. And the other thing I think within 7 maybe was there were exceptions. Is that the correct word? What was
In reference to what, though?
I thought there were exceptions, and I think there were questions as to some of those exceptions. I had some questions as to those exceptions also, so, yes. For first thing before anybody else, actually, and then they came. I don't remember the verbiage right now. We can take a look to see what it says with respect to the planning board's ability,
Well, what the exceptions
or the building.
on
department?
page 6 of that second draft of the local law,
Wait, let's make sure I have the second draft. Yes, second draft, 9/115/6.
there are currently a list of 2 items where John can issue the wetlands permit instead of it going to the planning board. And the proposal is to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional situations where John can issue the permit as opposed to it going to the planning board and having the planning board issue the permit. So I don't know specifically.
Okay, so where it's, are we in page 6, section 105-6D1?
Yes.
Okay. And so, construction of a driveway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we have
Now,
John.
if you
decks and porches, single-story movable sheds.
let me just say, if I can, if you take these exceptions out, the planning board can still approve these things by taking them out of this section or crossing them out. The planning board can still allow these.
Right.
This just, since we broadened the definition of wetland, and we're going to have more applications now because the definition of wetland has been broadened considerably.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to do here is we're trying to put certain things in the lap of the building inspector as opposed to having many more applications go to the planning board. So if you cross these out, it's not as though they couldn't be allowed. It's just that they're going to have to go now to the planning board to be allowed, and you're going to burden the planning board more as opposed to allowing John to say yes to these.
Okay, so I don't know that I want to cross all them out, but I think G is something that's big when you're talking about stone walls. I think we don't want to burden the planning board, but I think that with respect to issues concerning our environment, which is why we're doing so much of this, that a hard look should be taken about, and if that means going in front of a board and taking a step, and if that means it provides the people who are surrounding them the opportunity to have that conversation, which doesn't happen when you go to the building, to the inspector.
I've had some very good conversations with him.
I've had lovely conversations with him, but nobody else necessarily had to know about those conversations. Right? So I think this is what we are talking about, is more communication, more information for those people who would be impacted or directly affected, more conversation about environmental issues. We are
What is it that you want to take out? The walls?
So I think G may be something that we should think about, and I think A is something that I would think about.
And what is A?
A is the construction of a driveway.
You start. I got to be honest with you.
Those are just.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be open to those things. I don't think that's causing a whole lot of change at this, and I think it is definitely something we're going to hear, and I think there's something to that, and to putting those type of things. A deck, it's on existing property already. Your house already exists. You already have it, and you're putting a porch or a deck. I don't see those things being a problem or super invasive to the environment. But when you're talking about driveways and pavings and walls, I think that becomes a different level of oversight that might or conversation that might be needed.
Yeah, I'm not wedded to keeping these paragraphs in here, because I think we're talking about process as opposed to substance. So it would be okay with me, certainly, if they came out.
Wait a minute. Let John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you tell me with that section on the wall, is there a height or something? I don't know the section.
Yeah, I'll read it to you.
Thank you.
Sure. Dry laid, this is something where you would be able to issue the permit. Dry laid stone walls containing no mortar or cement, where the wall is designed to permit the passage of small animals by permitting openings at 15-foot intervals at least 6 inches in height above ground level and 12 inches in length, and where the construction of said wall will not inhibit or alter the natural drainage flow or cause the blocking or damming of surface water.
Come up to the mic, though, okay?
And I just want to know who gets to say it doesn't inhibit the dam, or what, you know what I mean? I think that's the part of the verbiage that causes me concern.
I just wanted to mention to the board that a building permit is not required for that type of a wall. We don't get into issuing building permits for walls unless they're retaining walls, which are generally about 4 feet in height, and an engineer has to get involved in it. Anything less than that, we don't normally issue building permits. There's not a requirement under the state law for us to do that. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, which means now that anybody falling into this category will now have to come in and file for a building permit, and depending on how you decide to write this law, I may have to send them all to the planning board.
This would just be in wetlands.
Just in the wetland itself?
And wetland buffers, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know that normally they wouldn't require a permit.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to be very cognizant of the fact that if we send too much to the planning board, then we're not doing what, we're so careful of what we were doing in the first place. And John, let's say we did this and someone came in and they wanted a building permit. You're going to go out and look at the property, and you're going to make a call as to whether it's really in the how much in the buffer of the wetlands it is, and what is it doing, and it is protecting all the little animals. And sure, please.
I just want the board, just to be aware that a lot of people are going to be impacted by these laws that are just
that you don't think so, yeah.
They're not developers, they're not builders. There's somebody who wants to do a little bit of work on the house. And we may be sending a lot of people now into planning. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm just bringing to your attention that we also have to look at the single-family residence of somebody who's not looking to put 7 buildings up somewhere. This is somebody who wants to put a deck or expand their driveway or something to that effect. And we may end up saying, well, the project's going to cost you $1,000, but by the time you get done with the consultant, you have to tack on another 10. I just want us to be aware that, when you're looking at this, to look at that as well, that there is an average homeowner that might be impacted by this.
Okay, but we're talking about within wetlands, right? With
And
so
buffers, and buffers.
just
In buffers.
just okay. I think that there is a conversation going on about the fact that we have destroyed many wetlands, and that we're trying to mitigate that issue. And I don't claim to know what a wetland is. I know that I live on a property that has some kind of creek or stream or some such wet thing that goes through, and so I'm looking at it from that point of view. And if I wanted to expand my driveway to go closer to it, or if I wanted to build some kind of a wall, I think that somebody who knows more about what the impact of my doing that, because that stream does go down further. And so my understanding is that those things feed and impact. So I think my thought process is that, yes, we don't want to impact people in a way that it's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. I'm hoping that putting it in a place where it has to go to the planning board doesn't necessarily mean I have to pay a lot of money. It just might. Why?
Because you'll have to have a wetland survey done, and this is what, some of the consequences of it. But I think what we have to do is John is a building inspector. It's not like we just take Joe off the street.
No,
You have
I mean,
to have
no
credentials.
offense
No, yeah.
to John.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody was.
So I think
we were not trying to
What
say
were the
that.
two things? One was the walls, and one was the expanding your driveway. One was the walls, and one was the
Yes.
driveway. So let's just poll the board and
Can you read the driveway one again?
Sure.
look into the mic.
So, so this would be a permit that could be issued by the building inspector for the construction of a driveway where the length of a wetland or buffer area crossing or intrusion is less than 100 feet, excluding the construction of driveways of any length which cause hydrological isolation of a portion of a wetland. If a natural drainage system crossing is proposed, where a single culvert of less than 25 feet in length and 18 inches in diameter is required.
It just seems like I don't know who had. I mean, I guess John, that language is language that you would know where the hydrological isolation of a portion of a. I mean, are you? I know you're very smart and know many things.
I'm so glad it's here.
But I'm just, it just seems to me that there's so much conversation and content contained within that paragraph that should be brought to a board, because that creates a conversation that otherwise doesn't happen.
Okay, John.
Well, I don't have that kind of expertise, and I don't make believe I do. So what's going to happen is when somebody comes in for the building permit, I'm going to have to direct them as an added expense to hire somebody to go out there with the expertise in that area to tell us whether or not this can be accomplished under the guidelines of that ordinance. So we would actually have to make them hire somebody, be it an engineer, architect, whoever has the expertise in that kind of field of work, to show us that they're not impacting this in a negative way under that paragraph.
So you would be doing a lot of the things that the planning board would
Well,
do,
if he said it's impacting it, then my answer is you're going to the planning board.
Right, see?
You know,
So it's
I
like-
won't hesitate. I have sent many people to the planning board.
Right.
If I think it's out of my realm, or if I think that it's just too big, I'll send it to the planning board. But if they can get an expert into us and show us that they meet these guidelines, then we don't necessarily have to. However you guys want to do it is fine with me. I'm just showing you that there is.
But it allows us to have some latitude as to if someone wants to build a little wall or something, and let's say you have to bring somebody in and they bring it in and they prove it to you, then you don't go to the planning board. But if you're even questioning it, you're going to send them to the planning board.
It's automatic. Then you go to the planning board. I've done that
I'm
with
happy with
trees.
that. Yeah.
I've sent people into the planning board for trees.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think something should just be put in that section that you were just talking about, or the building inspector may, at his option, refer someone to the.
Would that help? Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, can we add that? Thank you. And you good with that?
Yeah.
You good with that?
Of course.
Of course. Well, this time you have to go spend it in front of a planning
Some of
board
those
better.
words
I know.
Yeah.
Well, even John was like, sorry for spinning.
That's why sometimes you need an expert.
And I'm glad he's here. Good. Let's ask if Kim had, is that Kim?
I think I'm good.
Okay,
I have one more question.
absolutely.
So now that the target has stopped moving,
No.
No, no,
I have,
no.
I have one more question.
oh,
It hasn't stopped.
sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Last one.
Sorry.
And I brought this up before, and I just don't remember how it was addressed, if at all. There was commentary and very detailed description with analogies provided by one of our residents, Gareth Huffam, who suggested that under the culvert section, I think it was the culvert section, that our current definition of what required, I forget if it was what the requirement was, but it dealt with, we designated type DEC Type A, Type B, and Type C water courses, but apparently there's an additional water course which is far less than those, but constitutes a significant amount of the total water flow in a community. So I think there was some discussion that you're actually wiping out what his analogy was, the capillaries. You're not by limiting it to Type A, Type B, and Type C, that we're actually knocking off the smallest of all water courses, which isn't defined in those DEC designations. So I was just concerned, based on what Mr. Huffam had said, that possibly we should expand the water courses beyond those DEC designations. I just forget if we touched on that and if it was addressed, resolved, or if we all decided that let someone else deal with it down the line. I just don't remember.
I don't think it was really addressed. This is a section that I think.
Yeah, no, we worked on that. What we were trying to do is put a limit on to where we go with this. Because, on the one extreme, you have somebody puts a pipe under their driveway that runs along, a gutter along the road. That's sort of the thing we don't want to subject to having to put big culverts in, because quite frankly, you actually create then like a roadside hazard almost, because now you've got to really reconfigure the ditch and something that somebody, so you can create a hazard doing that. So I guess the question really becomes, the DEC has guidance document, which is where we borrowed this from, that's the criteria they use, where you basically have these, they're much larger water courses that have much larger flows, and you're trying to achieve a natural stream bottom. Because many times a road or some improvement is done, and you can look and you can see something that looks like a natural stream bottom. It's rocky, it has sand, it clearly is a well-established channel, as opposed to something that's man-made that has a pipe going across it. So that becomes a threshold issue. Those are sort of the two extremes, and do we want to find someplace in between? But the DEC thing just provided a convenient threshold in that all these streams are actually mapped and classified.
So I think that we've made extraordinary improvements in the laws, but and I'm not wedded to the thought of including this, but if you accept Mr. Huffam's comments as credible, and I did and do, if this is if you analogize it to the human circulatory system, our water bodies or water systems or water courseways and things like that, if you eliminate the capillaries that draw blood to your lungs, all of a sudden you're eliminating the exchange of oxygen, and you have basically the suffocation of the system. So I'm not suggesting that our laws are going to suffocate our water courses, but if
I guess I think the capillaries are a bad analogy.
Okay,
because here's
yeah.
what really the focus needs to be, is if you have a channel, if you have a channel that's a natural channel, part of what you're trying to do is keep it as a natural channel so that amphibians will go through there. They don't see it as this corrugated pipe that scares them. That you're bisecting a natural channel with a driveway or whatever it is that a pipe is necessary. So it's really about preserving the natural bottom And if you don't have a natural bottom to start with, then, so that's where the capillary analogy breaks down, because we still have to have these conduits of a certain size to convey the water or the blood or, however you want to view it. But it's really about trying to maintain that natural bottom. And that's really, again, takes us back to where is something a natural bottom and where's, a natural stream channel bottom that you want to treat in a different way than some drainage out on the road that, basically the highway department's got to go out and clean all the time. You don't want to have that kind of restriction on them to just maintain the normal stuff that they're maintaining out on the road.
I think there's something to be said for being in between and not going either extreme. But I will say, in all due respect to the DEC, if you tell me that you've done stuff from the Army Corps of Engineers, I'm going to say that they know their stuff. They know what they're, there's a level. I work with the DEC. They're great people, but I don't know that their standards. Often the state has standards that are umbrellas, and that it is for the municipality to decide what is the best fit in terms of drilling deeper down into certain things. So I'm not sure that the DEC's bar, which is high because they're thinking statewide often about things, is necessarily the bar that we want in terms of kind of narrowing some of this stuff down. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't, it might be something that we want to take a look at, and I understand that we don't want to get into pipes along roads, but I think that it sounds to me like you're suggesting that there is room to move to be more in the middle.
I'd like to admit that I'm a little confused about what we're talking about. Does anybody know specifically and precisely what Gareth's problem is? Or
No, he was really detailed.
What's his issue?
The DEC has.
What's Gareth's issue?
I would imagine he's going with the DEC criteria, which really speaks to this maintaining natural stream bottoms.
What's Gareth saying should be done?
That the smallest of water bodies also should be maintained with a natural bottom. So if there are different size water courses,
no matter,
big, medium, and small, Gareth is saying.
Whether it's
Yeah, he's saying basically,
under a driveway, should have a natural bottom.
In
short, sort of, yeah, something like that.
I mean,
I think that's what his point was. I just wanted to know if we've addressed it and if we could discuss it. And I should say for the record that I'm not pushing this issue. I just wanted to have the discussion. And having heard from our consultants, I personally feel that I don't need to pursue this anymore, and I'm glad to continue the discussion. But I'm satisfied with the discussion that we've had up until now, and I would say that it's fine with me as is, and that we would leave it to. I am willing to leave it to another board at another time to pick this up if there's still some community outcry.
And if I may, I mean, part of it was too was to have a crisp answer as to what constitutes something where you have to do this. And because the DEC's inventoried all these water courses and classified them, you got a real crisp answer to take. This other area gets a little vague and becomes like, what's a water course? And I mean, I guess you could go there, but certainly this is something new that's in the legislation that wasn't there previously, and it can evolve if you want to tighten up some standards. But that seemed like a reasonable place to start anyway, to use their classifications.
Very good. I'm good with that.
No, I was just going to say that now that the target has stopped moving, and it may start moving again at the next public hearing. No, it's not. I can work on the.
We welcome everyone to come and talk to us, but it won't be moving like it's been moving.
Right.
It might be a tweak or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can continue working on the environmental assessment form.
Yes.
And because I had to stop at some point because I didn't know exactly where we were going in some respects.
I think we've done an outstanding, again, I want to say it again because I'm so impressed. Outstanding job, and if you can complete that environmental which is another thing that was brought up, that, you know, it should be more detailed, so we wanted to make that more detailed. That we can continue moving. We're going to have our public hearing next Tuesday, which is, let me say the right date, October 27th. And again, we're going to be closing our public hearing, but we are going to have one more work session that we talk about this, because it doesn't have to be a public hearing open to continue talking about it. We have kept them open as we tweak the laws so people could make more and more comments on it. But I think we're ready for the last comments from people. We have taken everything you've said. We've printed it out. We've killed a couple of trees, and we've taken it very seriously. And I want all the people out there to appreciate the work that everyone at this table has done, and I know they do. And we'll move forward and see what we get next Tuesday, and then go from there. But you may continue working on your environmental form. Great. Are we good?
Thank you, guys.
Yay. It's a tremendous amount of stuff going on, you know. It really has. Woo!
You sure that's what you want to say?
Yes, that's a collaboration. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was a cluster development. No,
So we're going to talk about that at the same time. So if you just clue us into what is a knockbox law, what it knockbox.
It's actually called the rapid entry system.
Important that people know too that the only people that have the keys to these boxes, it's like a box on the outside of your building. You can see them sometimes when you drive through the village of Ossining. I started looking for them when we first passed the law. I would look for them, you know. But the fire chiefs have the key. It's not a key that gets handed out, so you know. So it's a whole system that's put together.
Yeah, in Ossining, if I remember correctly, they actually built a safe into the fire chief's car so that you had to access the safe to get out the key to go to the lockbox and unlock that. And I was thinking that, you know, we could, I'd like to have it a renewable thing like every 2 years so that if something changes, tenants change or whatever and they forget, every 2 years we can update the records and get the necessary information on contacts and have updated keys if we needed them. And we might even, similar to the alarm system, we might charge a fee to do all this just for maintenance.
I was going to say, I don't think there's anything bad about this. This sounds like a absolutely
Win, win,
wonderfully,
win, win, win.
logically smart, safe rule and law. How much does it cost I mean, even if it's $100, I don't think it's a lot of money. I'm just asking, how much does it cost? It's going to be the business or the multi-family residents that would have to purchase this lockbox,
That's
right?
correct.
And then have it installed.
That's correct.
Do-
It's their responsibility.
Do we know, give or take, how much that
No,
costs?
I'd hate to give you a price. I'm going
Okay.
to say that it's probably, with the installation, it might be $300 to $500 at the most, I'm guessing.
Okay.
It's really a guess.
I was going to say, I remember it being between 2 and 4, and so
And
that
that
was
was a few
like
years ago,
was
right?
like 8 years ago we
Okay.
did that. Yeah.
Does one key fit all, sort of?
Of the-
So the chief, he has this safe or whatever, and he pulls out a key. He can access with that one key any commercial property. Yes, good.
Yeah,
Skeleton
we
key.
have to decide with the fire chief. There are a lot of systems out there, but we have to decide on one system. We did that in the village, and we came up with the Knox Box Company, so that their
That's where
key
the
fit
name comes
only
from.
their boxes, because you can't have a string of 25 keys. So they would have that one key, which would unlock all these boxes.
So it's the same key that opens up the corner deli, opens up a massive commercial enterprise.
It could be, they could have several keys for larger institutions. It all has to be worked out with the fire chief, what he feels comfortable with, and then we would go with that.
Okay, but you have two different fire departments.
Well, the majority of commercial is in Briarcliff, on the Briarcliff Fire Department, I should say. The majority of our commercial is the Briarcliff Fire Department.
Okay.
So they would probably govern what system. 95% of the people go with the Knox box. If the fire chief felt comfortable, we would pick it.
And if it was the same system, the Village of Austin is very comfortable with it, because you do have some remote businesses that that are in that side of the unincorporated area that doesn't use the Briarcliff Fire Department.
I was going to say, if 400 exec and all that is
Oh yeah.
is,
Well,
is
we have
fascinating.
that. We have down at
Right, but we
Old
could work
Albany
with
Post
both of
Road.
them.
Yeah.
We could work with both
Yep.
departments. If one, they use Knox box in the village, if it turned out the Briarcliff wanted a different one, well, then they would have just that set of keys for them, and they
Yeah.
would have their set of keys for them.
Well, has there been substantial objection or complaints by commercial owners that have to install these?
Sure. Anything that costs the money, they're gonna complain, but, it costs a lot less to put the box in than it does to get your front window smashed out 3 or 4 times on false alarms.
So do insurance companies give discounts for Knox box?
That I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Maybe they should.
But you know what they do is the first thing they do is they'll go right through the front door. So.
Not necessarily. They often come through the roof. But what I wanted to know now, have you had any problem where people do change their locks on their doors, and you might have the key, but
Yeah, I
said
can't
two.
speak for that here in the town since we don't have the system.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I want it to be renewable, so that we can keep track of this. And we could write something into the ordinance to the effect that if you change these locks and don't notify us, it's a violation.
Okay.
It's important to keep this up to date. We don't want somebody in an elevator where it's 95 degrees and they're stuck in it, and we have to break down the door to get to the elevator room to
Right.
get the key to get this thing open. So we want to have access to all of these keys, and it's a safe system, it works, and it's a minimal expense at the beginning, and then they don't have to expend it again.
Thank you.
Oh, good. So we'll see you in 2 weeks with that in the accessory apartment.
This, I can show
Yeah,
you.
with
You
it,
can
yeah.
handle it now.
You send me, you did have the proposal, I'll take a look at it.
It's on the website too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody wants to look at it in the public, it's been posted on the website too.
What is that?
That's the
The knock box?
Knox box right here.
Ignore all my-
Knock box, yeah.
Yeah. Could you have one in my packet,
Sure.
please?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night, Thank you.
See you then. And thanks for participating in that other conversation. It made it was perfect timing for everybody to be here. Well, thus ends our October 20th, 2015 meeting. I almost said it again, but I didn't. For tonight. And next week we will be at 88 Spring Street. Actually, it's 86 Spring Street because the police are 88, but it's 88, 86, 88 Spring Street for a legislative meeting. And please watch. We'll be posting on the webpage and sending out information. There's a few things happening this weekend. One of the things is the Mary Knoll International Bazaar, which is always something fun to go to, is on Saturday. The Haunted Hayride is at Cedar Lane Park on Saturday. And there's a lot of other things going on. And what do you have, Sarah?
The
the
high school production of Othello by the Ossining Drama Club is playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Free admission. Come on down.
To where?
To the school.
Ossining High School.
In their new
7 p.m.
auditorium, which has got the comfy new seats in it. So it's very good. So thank you very much, and we will see you next Tuesday, which is October 27th. So we'll see you before Halloween. But always remember that Saturday this year is Halloween, and there'll be the Dare Halloween party at the community center, which is always fun. The Rotary does hot dogs and apple juice and popcorn, and the PAL, I believe it is, or the PBA, does a whole bunch of games with the recreation department in the gym, and you can go down there and have a good time. And there's usually maybe even a haunted house there, too. But the big haunted house is this Saturday night at Cedar Lane Park, 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Yes?
What time was that at the Joseph?
6 o'clock.
6 p.m.
And you can have some hot dogs, because I know it's your favorite food. So thank you anyway, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Again, we'll be at a legislative meeting, and the public hearings will all be opened again. So if you have any further comments on our local laws, we invite you to come or send us an email. Have a wonderful week. So we're going to move into executive session for legal advice. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Somebody second, please.
I can't.
Second. Thank you, Jeff. All in favor? Aye. Have a great week.